no, absolutely not. I apologize, good people. I had to get the lighting fixed. That was bogus. Okay. I think we good. I think we're good. Light still look a little dim, but I can see myself. Y'all can see me. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Promo Podcast. I am your host, Antoine Jones, and as always, we are ready to rock out for another fun-filled episode. Um, Today is another top tens list. I wanted to do movies. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. This one was probably the hardest top tens I've done so far. Um, but just as fun as the rest. I didn't realize that I haven't done a top 10 list for films in almost 10 years. And as time changes, so do the movies you like, right? Some that you didn't like as much, you like more. Some movies that you liked a lot, you don't like it, as much. And then movies come out almost every other day. So, you're privy to so many new films that in a 10-year span, any of those could top your list. So I really had to do some searching, some digging. I had to go back to the archives and the files and, put a list together of obviously more than 10 so I can narrow it down and get to 10. And I did that. As always, it was fun. I enjoyed it. But boy, it's difficult. Let me tell you, that's rough. That's rough. Doing the top 10 list is rough. But I got mine down. I got it together. And I'm excited to share it with you all. As always, I want to do some honorable mentions. Every movie can't make the list. I only got space for 10. But I love films. I'm a big film lover. So I wanted to at least acknowledge a lot of those that I find to be incredibly fun or incredibly thrilling. Something to make me think. Ones that I really just appreciate over time that did not make the top 10 list. So let's narrow some of those down, right? Or let's go down that list rather. Finding Nemo. Big fan of Finding Nemo. I was always a fan of Finding Nemo. When it first came out, I thought Finding Nemo was off the chain. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure 10 years ago it was on my top 10 list. Finding Nemo was one of those films that, touches the soul. And as I got older and I became a father, it resonates with me even more. The great lengths that Marlon went just to get his son. Obviously, it's a Pixar film, so the animation is really dope. It's really exciting. They did a lot of cool stuff. The characters was really dope. And Dory, as a side character, was she was top notch. So I thought Finding Nemo was cool. I don't want to hold you all day with just that one film, but I was a big fan of Finding Nemo. That one had to be mentioned before I went any further. Also, Infinity War. I love Marvel. I'm a big Marvel guy. That one is probably possibly my favorite Marvel movie of all time. It didn't make my top 10 list, but it was nice to see. And I don't want to say villain. Obviously Thanos the bad guy, but it was nice to see a bad guy win. Set out a mission statement. Somebody who they've been building up for like years. They were building Thanos up for years. He was coming. He showed up. He wrecked house. He got all the stones. Wiped out half of everything. Awesome. It was almost like you knew it was going to happen. They still couldn't stop it. I loved every bit of that film. It was like years of build up that the Marvel films were doing. It paid off. Infinity War like really paid it off. I love that film. Also, Benjamin Button. Benjamin Button. You know, Brad Pitt, if you ask me if he was one of my top 5 actors, I would probably say no. But I love Brad Pitt films. Like, there's a lot of his films that I really, really like his work. And Benjamin Button was one of those films where he just really brought that character out. And obviously, the message behind it was really dope. The story they were trying to tell was really dope. The supporting cast was awesome. The time frame in which everything happened was really cool. And seeing him get younger, obviously, because he was reverse Asian in the movie, was super dope. There was so many dope things they did in the film. But him, just Brad, in that role, it felt like he was in his element. And that was probably one of the first movies that I was like sucked in with his role. Like his character like drew me to that movie wholeheartedly. I thought that was like super dope. So Benjamin Button, another one. V for Vendetta. If you asked me this 10 years ago, that definitely was on my top 10 list. I thought V for Vendetta, one of those revolutionary films, um, um, standing up against the system kind of story. And V was super, super cool uh, character when I was younger. So I always thought it was a very dark, one of those dark, grim films too. It was really dark, really grim, but it was awesome. Like I'm a big message guy, big story guy, and V for Vendetta had all of that. So yeah, that's another one. Um, Back to the Future. Back to the Future. It, I'm pretty sure this was on my list. I can almost guarantee you it was. And Back to the Future is always like growing up. That was like one of my favorite movies of all time. You know, I was a big, still am a big sci-fi fantasy guy. So time travel elements really, really reeled me in. I'm a big fan of that. I probably had this maybe even 4 years ago on my top 10 list. It might have been more recent than that. I just, as time changed, so the movies and the interest that I have. So it's off, but it's still an honorable mention because that movie really shaped my belief on time travel when I was a kid. And then I got older and realized it's probably not like that. But the movie really, really did some dope things and made you think, and it kind of spearheaded a lot of I think like beliefs on time travel and just some cool things. And I mean, come on, the Doc Brown, Marty McFly, those are incredible roles. So also a dope movie. Okay, now that I've got those out of the way, I could keep naming honorable mentions for the next 10 minutes and it ain't gonna matter. None of them are on the list, right? So I've spent long enough time talking about them. I got them out the way. Let's get to the nitty gritty. Number 10, Coming to America. I'm talking about the old 1980, what was it, 88? I think it came out. Coming to America. I think the first comedy that I as a kid I didn't know how great of a movie it was. You don't realize until you get older and realize it sticks with you. And obviously, as a comedy, it was funny. I think Eddie Murphy around that time was hilarious. He's still hilarious, but he was just putting out a tear of films around that time. And so for this one to kind of live like a cult classic and you see how big it is, for me, I didn't realize how big that movie was to me until I got older and I realized how much I freaking love that movie. I love it. And so it makes my list, which is very rare because it's hard for me to put comedies on any top tier list unless I'm like judging them against themselves. But that movie is it's so timeless. I think Eddie Murphy, Arsenio Hall, all those other characters that played roles. I mean, that had parts, small or big. They just, and again, I like the story it told, right? So like for it to be a comedy, to be hilarious, you kind of enjoy the story that it told. I mean, it's just my personal favorite. I can watch Coming to America all day as my jam. That's one of the first comedies that I really fell in love with. Uh, Not too many comedies I fall in love with. That one I did, and it stuck with me through life. So Coming to America is on my list. Number 9, The Fifth Element. I know that one is like a left field one for everybody. What is the saying? Everybody has like a guilty pleasure. A Fifth Element. That movie is also one of those cult classics that didn't really do well when it came out, or people didn't appreciate it as much. And I think I think that one stuck with me also because of the story and the dope futuristic things they did, traveling the worlds, the flying cars. Bruce Willis, who I'm not a big Bruce Willis guy, but I thought he was super dope in Fifth Element. I thought Chris Tucker was super dope in Fifth Element. Lilu, I take a lot of uh, parts of my life from that film, and I don't mean like aspects of things that I do, but I think just the belief on love, how it's so powerful that it can save the world. I do believe that, and I think that's the one thing that I took from that movie. And um, And it helps that I call my wife Fifth Element, so that's also a part of it, I guess. But yeah, Fifth Element definitely on my list. That's like the guilty pleasure of mine. I'm a big fan of that movie. I could play that one all day too. And again, these are my favorites. These ain't the top 10 movies I think are like the greatest of all time. They just happen to be my favorite films. So yeah, Fifth Element is on that list. Number eight. Scott Pilgrim. I think you see a trend now, right? I'm a goofy guy. I like a lot of silly stuff. I like a lot of fun stuff. My list gets a little more serious, but right here is the fun. Is the jump, the animation, the laughs, the giggles, the humor. Um, Scott Pilgrim. I remember seeing this movie and thinking, "Whoa!" Like just the things they did in that movie was incredible. And I think you don't realize how funny it is until you're actually watching it. And if there's one thing I could do over in life is I would watch Sky Pilgrim for the first time again. Like for the first time. I remember dying in my cousin's crib when I first seen it. We went to my cousin G house and like me, my brother, and him, and there's somebody else too. I can't remember. It's like four of us, but we're just in his living room watching Scott Pilgrim, dying, dying, because the movie is just so dumb, but it's hilarious. And you get older, and you realize the cast that was in there. I mean, Chris Evans is in that movie. Uh, I can't even remember all the names right now, but there are some cats in this film, and the film was hilarious. It's diehard funny, and it did something where it had like some comic book elements to it, especially with like the sound effects and the wording and like messages that they put throughout the film. I just thought Scott Pilgrim was a revolutionary film. It was ahead of its time and it was hilarious. So that one for me would be number eight. Number seven, Birdman. It has another name. Do not ask me what the of that movie is right now. I can't remember off the top. I'm pretty sure there's plenty of people that know that. Anyways, Birdman. This actually came out like recently too. Like not past few years, but it was like what 6, 7 years ago maybe. Anyways, Birdman was awesome. I thought that was a Michael Keaton film, and he played like the superhero guy in theater, which is very reminiscent to like the Batman role he did, but he like the Birdman character aspect like kept staying with him throughout the duration of the film, and they did a lot of like a lot of Broadway play elements to the film where they did like those one takes, those long one shot takes. I feel like they did it the whole film, right? Maybe I'm bugging. Maybe I'm bugging. But they did that element a lot, and like I loved it because it's kind of like you get to follow the actor. They have to stay kind of in the role. I might watch the movie tonight because I thought Michael Keaton was incredible in that movie. Edward Norton, oh my goodness, Edward Norton. Now he killed his role in that joint. So I thought that that movie is one of those movies where I thought the acting stood out to another level. Like it could be maybe a drag or a dreary for a lot of people who aren't interested in like theater arts or just incredible acting where there isn't much action based or you have to kind of find the humor in just the conversations. I thought that movie was incredible. Like Birdman sticks with me, and another great message, another great message. So Birdman's on my list for sure. Number six, Fight Club. I for years Fight Club was one of those movies that I heard that I never went to go see or I never watched. So people would bring it up and it was like, oh yeah, that movie. I know it, I know of it, but I think it had to be like somewhere in the mid 20 teens that I actually finally saw the movie, like 2015, 2014, something like that. Like I finally had watched it then. It took me a minute. And when I seen that movie, I was like, "Yo, this is diabolically good." Like that movie. I think that was another Norton film. You know what I mean, Brad Pitt, the homie. There they go. And the story they told in that was really dope, and that gave you like the psychological aspect. This is one of those psychological films. This is when I really start mixing the films that I'm banging with. You start seeing the jinx that I really get locked into, and that was another one of those that like Fight Club. I was just like that gave me like passion. That gave me some drive. It really made me dig deep. And that's when I started working on writing on books and stuff. Like Fight Club, I really like honed a lot of those elements from that storytelling into like when I started to write. I just thought it was very creative. Very creative. And they did a heck of a job on that film. That one I knew it was great because I heard it was great. But it you don't realize it until you actually watch it. That is a dope film. That one is on my list for sure. At number five, Dark Knight. I know a lot of people don't have like superhero films on top of their list, right? It's like it almost feels like taboo. Like you shouldn't have superhero films on your list unless you're like 10 or kid or something. But Dark Knight stays with me. To this day, it's probably my favorite uh, superhero film of all time. Well, it is on my top 10 list, but it's not just because I'm not a big Batman guy. Like Batman isn't my that's not like my cup of tea, which makes the point so much harder of how great the film was. It drives that home for me because I thought the messaging in Dark Knight was really incredible. They told an awesome story, and Heath Ledger played probably the greatest Joker ever in existence. If if you were to like didn't watch Batman and didn't know who Joker was, you lived under a rock or something, and you seen Heath Ledger's Joker, you would have sworn down that this is the character. This is who Joker really is in any aspect of creation. Whether it's cartoons or comic books. Uh, the Joker that Heath Ledger portrayed in that movie, I feel like broke the mold on what the Joker was. And then Christian Bale, I thought already played a great Batman. But when you add those two elements, those two actors together, they made like one hell of a movie. Like Dark Knight is more than just a superhero film to me. And I think that's why it's so highly read on my list because it was such a powerful film that is like, that was like next level storytelling to me. And then it had the darkness and the grittiness. I mean, with all Batman films, you get that right, but that one had that dark grittiness to it, and you could feel the emotion whenever Batman was he had come to an impasse of trying to make these life altering decisions. It took a toll on him throughout the film, and I love that Joker or Heath Ledger's character. He played into that a lot. So psh, that movie on my list, high up on my list, because as far as superhero films go, it shouldn't be that high up, and it is that high up because it was that damn good, in my opinion. Number four, Toy Story. Another film that probably should not be on most people's list, but this is my list, and these are my favorite films, and that is why Toy Story is up there. There's just some movies that stick with you, man, since childhood. It resonates with you to a level that's so strong that you can't separate it from anything else. And I know it was like one of the first Pixar films that were ever created. When I was coming up, Disney had those very cartoon animated films, but they didn't look like with the CGI kind of, the 3D animation, the 3D animation, and it didn't have that. They just kind of had like the cartoon animation. It was cool, it was fun, like the Lion King stuff was really dope. But what they did with Toy Story was just some next level stuff. I'm pretty sure everyone on the planet believed that toys were like secretly alive in the cut after they watched that movie. But the movie was super dope. As a kid, you enjoyed the messaging, you enjoy the action, the comedy, and the fun things that the film can do. But of course, when you get older, you start understanding the little messages behind everything that the film was portraying and it was trying to explain. And so Toy Story is one of those films that just it sticks with me. I whenever a new Pixar, a new Disney film comes out, that's kind of like the bar that is unreachable for me. Like I don't put them against Toy Story because I don't think any of them can top it. But if you get into like the Toy Story stratosphere, it's like Okay, it was a pretty good, Pixar film or Disney film. I feel like that with a lot of those movies, but the bar for me has always been Toy Story, and that movie was so incredible and so impactful. It's stuck with me since childhood. Number four. Number three, Pulp Fiction. I don't even think I need to say why, honestly. A lot of people know Pulp Fiction was all that. And that was one of those, you ain't even, maybe people did expect it, right? We talk about 94. Tarantino is killing it. And Sam Jack, he it's hard to say now because he's done so many doggone films, but that might be his best role. And he's played some stellar roles. I don't know, everything about Pulp Fiction. It just felt, it was rugged, it was fun. It had a lot of different elements, uh, street elements, um, pop culture. Like it really it really sticks with you. And I think that movie resonates with a lot of people just because of a lot of those things that I just said. I don't even need to stay too long on Pulp Fiction. Y'all know what that one is. That's for me. That's three. That's three. Number two, The Matrix. Again, another one of those films I've seen as a kid, and it has stuck with me because I'm very big into science fiction. I'm very big into deeper thinking. That movie had both of those elements, right? And I mean, some people even, believe it today to be real, not fiction. But I like how they were able to tell the story of, you know, the Matrix being what the world is today, and you're plugged in, sentience, machines kind of control, operating, creating humans, and we're just kind of vicariously moving through this system that they operate to make you taste food and see things and live life without realizing that you're not living life, you're living in a simulated world. I thought the Neo character was next level. uh, Keanu Reeves, that was, I remember going to see this film, and my hold up, I remember my dad had took me and my brother, it might have been brother and my sister, but I just remember me and my brother because we didn't think this movie was gonna really be all that good. We were like, Matrix, whatever. And at that time, he was on his big science fiction kick. Like he really was into those kind of films, and he was kind of hyping it up, like, yeah, this gonna be dope. And we went, and we kind of like skittish. We not too sure about it. And I remember the first scene when like Trinity did like kicking it, getting away from the agents, and then getting going through the phone. Like it didn't take long. We thought it like the film like started off slow, but when Neo got out of the Matrix, got into the real world and met Morpheus, it was just like the movie was building, and the storytelling for the Matrix resonated with me. Just resonated with me. I I, I was sucked in. So Matrix is one of those films that I've always put on top list, high regard for like science fiction type film storytelling, the action. I mean, Jesus, they were I don't remember too many films that like had like the kung fu elements to that level. Um, Not off the top of my head, not then, off the top of my head. But I thought that, with the gun, the shooting scenes, and um, just the dialogue, the conversations they had, like that movie had all the elements that you would want in that type of film, and for the story they told, uh, that movie, yeah, smack that number two for me. Yeah, Matrix number two for me. That's the stuff that I'm into. I was after that. I was all the way on the. If I didn't know I was gonna like write books and plays and talk about like science fiction and fantasy fiction elements in life, like after that movie, I might as well had just like booked myself for any all of that because that movie put me in that. And like if I was already on that direction, that movie kept me there, and I wasn't getting off of that train ever. And last, number one, my favorite movie of all time is Inception. Inception. Another theme with like storytelling, science fiction film, dream sharing. I can go on and on. I can go on and on. Leonardo DiCaprio, he's a hell of an actor. Incredible actor. I thought the cast was outstanding. Another Chris Nolan film, like Dark Knight. I got two of these bad boys. I didn't realize that. Yeah, that that movie also like left an impression on me, a really strong one. I couldn't believe it. I thought that movie was like lights out, off the chain, and everything that I liked. It made me think. It really gave me like some super dope elements, some super dope fighting scenes. A lot of the CGI they did, like with the water pouring into the buildings, especially when they were like jumping from one dream to the next. Yeah, and then the ultimate cliffhanger, right? Because at the end, you think Leo gets out and he spins the totem and he goes to play with his kids, and the totem never stops moving. Because in the movie, they tell you that it's a dream when you are able to touch your own totem and feel the weight, density of it. You know it, and with the spinners, it would stop if the world was real. If you were out of the dream, the top, the spin would stop spinning, and the movie cut off with the top still spinning. So like I always thought that was like the ultimate cliffhanger too. I'm pretty sure he never got that dream, but that movie was fire. I'm a big Inception fan guy. That one is hard to really take off the top for me because I big fan of the cast, big fan of the acting, big fan of the story, big fan of the action, the subtle jokes that's involved. So much. Anyways, that is my top 10 for this week. I'll be back next week to do another one. I'm not sure what the category is going to be. I'll figure that out in the next coming days. I have another episode coming up Friday after SmackDown. We're going to get back into some more of this wrestling, excuse me. And then finally, I want to add some reviewing. Last year, I did a top 10 albums, and it took me all year because I literally was reviewing albums all year. And crazy enough, I have not started yet. And there's been like some albums I need to go start reviewing. So I'm going to get on that. But I think starting next week, I'm going to start doing album reviews as well. Maybe just getting here and kind of chop it up about a specific album that I listen to. I think on my list, I have The Weeknd's album first. I want to get that joint a spin and check it out. So next time I am here, I'll be talking about Spec now. But sometime next week, you'll hear me review that album. All right, man. Well, this was another episode of the Promo Podcast. I appreciate you rocking with me. If you hung out this long, mwah, love you. All right. Please do come back again. We'll talk some more wrestling. We'll talk some more top tens, and we'll start mingling with some album reviews. All right. Until then, everybody, peace, be safe, love you, and be easy. All right, that's it. And we out.